Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it and I hope that this video finds you well. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about 10 flankers that are better than the original, so make sure to stay tuned. Now in this video, we're going to be talking about 10 flankers that are better than the original. And before I begin this video, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance related content, if you like fragrance reviews here on YouTube, but also top 10 videos, giveaways, unboxings, special guests, interviews, and pretty much anything having to do with fragrances, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. This way, whenever I do put out these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. So we all know what the process is like. We all know what the trend is like. The original comes out, and depending on the success of the original and how well known it becomes and how much it overtakes the industry, a company will try to capitalize and profit off of the success of the original by releasing a flanker, and then subsequently another flanker, and then another flanker. It might be a sport flanker, a noir flanker, a by night flanker, a eau de parfum flanker, a parfum flanker. We know the deal, right? We see it happen time and time again. But a lot of times companies will come out with a flanker that is actually better than the original. And I think that that is the case with all 10 fragrances that I have here in front of me. And it's not the case with a lot of fragrances. Let's be honest. There are fragrances like Bleu de Chanel. I actually prefer the Eau de Toilette. If we're talking about Dylan Blue, it's hard for me to choose between Dylan Blue and Versace Pour Homme because they're both fantastic. I just wear them for different occasions, different seasons, different times of the year, so on and so forth. But in the case of these 10 fragrances, I can safely say that these flankers are just as good, if not better, in a different way from the original. So let's go ahead and get it started. These are all randomly selected. I have hundreds of flankers in my collection, so there are so many fragrances that I could have potentially done this with, but I chose to focus on these 10. So let's go ahead and get it started. And coming in at the number 10 spot is a fragrance that smells so different from the original. And this fragrance is Thierry Mugler's Angel Men Pure Havane. Now, I think the same can be said about Pure Malt as well. I think they are fantastic fragrances. This one is this sort of honeyed tobacco sort of a fragrance. And if you guys know the original, it has that cotton candy, ethyl malto vibe, the patchouli, that tar note that people talk about. And I know personally of a lot of people that actually prefer this over the original because the original has that dreaded tar note. It's a little hard to wear and it might be a little bit too challenging for some people's taste. So Thierry Mugler's Angel Men Pure Havane, a fantastic flanker. And I think for some people, a lot of people actually, this one is better than the original. And I personally love this one and I have been wearing it for many, many years now. It's a little hard to find nowadays, but it's a fantastic fragrance nonetheless. The next flanker that I think is better than the original comes with a caveat. This one actually smells very similar to the original. The only difference is that it performs a little bit better. All right, so we're talking about maybe an added hour or two of longevity. However, if you have the original, do not waste your money on this. Wait until you run out of the original, especially if you're a big fan of the DNA of this fragrance. And then once you run out of the original, go ahead and buy this one. But I don't think that this one is such an improved version, but I do think that it's better than the original on account of those extra hours of longevity. And this one by the company Montblanc is called Legend Eau de Parfum. So the Eau de Toilette, you know, that musky lavender thing going on in there smells similar to Abercrombie & Fitch's Fierce, classic scent. This one is very youthful, but it also has a contemporary vibe. It kind of smells a little bit like a mall scent, but this one is pieced together very well. The designer version of Percival by Parfum de Marly, I think a lot of us have heard that narrative as well. But all in all, I think it's a nice scent. However, for me, it was a superfluous purchase because in smell, it's so similar to the original. However, if you are a fan of the original, but you don't own it, I would say you can skip over the original and then go straight to the Eau de Parfum version. And yeah, in the case of this fragrance, I do think that it is an improvement over the original, thus making it better than the original. Another time when a flanker was better than the original is in the case of Gucci Guilty Oud. So you guys know the original Gucci Guilty, it was released under the creative direction of Frida Giannini, and it's a fragrance that has an overdose of citrus in the opening, and then after like 20 minutes it falls flat. And unfortunately, that is the case with a lot of the Gucci Guilty fragrances, whether we're talking about Gucci Guilty Intense, Gucci Guilty Black, and but it smells great. It's a mass appealing scent. It's one that'll get you compliments. It's one that works well around a lot of other people if you're wearing it in an office setting. However, Gucci Guilty Oud has this berry note with agarwood. It's smooth, it's rosy, it's a little creamy, it's a little fruity, it's sweet as well. It's such an amazing flanker that, to be honest, smells nothing like the original. And so if you're buying this because you're a fan of the original, please don't buy this. You saw how different they went with Gucci Guilty Absolute. Night and day difference between the original and that flanker. Same can be said about this one. However, 9 times out of 10, if I had the option of choosing over, between this one or the original, I would definitely choose this one. You know, with my taste, it caters towards darker scents, ones that are more complex. And this one just has that ability or that capacity to satisfy that personal preference. The next fragrance that I think is better than the original, and actually there are 2 flankers here that are better than the original, and this is Versace Eros. And the one I'm talking about is Eros Flame. So this one has this added minty quality that I really like, and it actually opens up a little brighter than the original Eros, which also contains mint. You guys know it has citrus, it has mint, it has tonka bean, it has vanilla. However, I really like Eros Flame, and I think not only is this better, in my opinion, than the original Versace Eros, but also Versace Eros Eau de Parfum is better than the Eau de Toilette. So here we actually have 2 in 1. 2 fragrances that are better than the original. The next one that I want to talk about in this list is by Guerlain, and this one is called L'Instant de Guerlain Pour Homme Eau Extrême. So this is the extreme version, and I know the presentation has changed a few times throughout the years, but this is the extreme version. And I think the extreme version just has that added chocolatey, cacao, patchouli thing going on in there that makes it a little bit darker, a little warmer, a little more sensual. And I think it's an awesome fragrance. I actually love wearing this one, a fantastic designer patchouli fragrance. The next fragrance in this list that I think is better than the original is better than it in a few different ways. This one performs better, and in terms of the smell, it's not as childish and it's not as juvenile. And this one by the company Paco Rabanne is 1 Million Privé. Now the original 1 Million, I think it will go down as a classic if it hasn't already. It's such an iconic smell, and it's one that so many people around the world absolutely love. However, at this point in the game, it's been played out. Anybody who smells the original 1 Million, they associate it with that juvenile, puerile, bubblegum sort of a quality that it possesses. And so it doesn't really come across smelling serious or mature in any way, but this one with that added myrrh note actually smells great. So I love 1 Million Privé, and I do prefer this over 1 Million Parfum, and I do prefer this over 1 Million Intense, and I do prefer this over 1 Million Lucky. So if you had to choose a definitive flanker from the 1 Million lineup, it would definitely be 1 Million Privé for me. The next fragrance on this list, coming in at the number 4 spot, is Dolce & Gabbana K Eau de Parfum. So the Eau de Toilette was a little heavy-handed on that juniper, and juniper has a bit of an astringent smell, and there was just something about it that reminded me of 360 for Men by Perry Ellis, which is a very synthetic smelling fragrance. I really hate that fragrance. And so when I smelled the original K by Dolce & Gabbana, I said, yup, it's not going to be for me. However, this one came out and it has that spicy element. It has the patchouli in here. They really darkened it up quite a bit. And I really like this one. This is a fantastic fragrance, actually one of the better releases of 2020. And I'm super glad that I bought this one. I actually bought 2 bottles because I was a little impatient. I bought one online. I was waiting for it to come in the mail. And then I went to Macy's and I saw they had it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a second bottle and I'm going to do a giveaway for the other one. And I actually did end up doing a giveaway. And, you know, the winner claimed this prize a long time ago. But Dolce & Gabbana Eau de Parfum, in my opinion, is better than the Eau de Toilette. So this next fragrance coming in at the number 3 spot is miles ahead of the version that came out before it. And this one is kind of a flanker, and it's really hard to do this because it's kind of like the original is such a classic mid-90s release, very iconic of that era. But this one is Nuit de Se, Pulse of the Night by Issey Miyake. And this company is such a powerhouse in the designer industry. We know the summer flankers, we know the original, we know all of these other flankers of the original that have done really well throughout the years, but Pulse of the Night kind of has this vanilla, ambery, spicy, honey, tobacco quality. It smells so similar to Herod by Parfums de Marly. This is an amazing fragrance. So in my opinion, not only would I prefer to wear this over the original Nuit de Se, which I do own and I purchased that one as well, but I actually definitely prefer to wear this over the original, which is a little dated at this point, as much as it is kind of a novelty scent for me and I like having it in my collection and it reminds me of the 90s. I do feel like this one is much more modern and contemporary, and it's a lot more dark, deep, and mysterious, and I just think it's a fantastic flanker. Coming in at the number 2 spot is by Moschino, and this one is Toy Boy. So the original Toy came out a few years ago, and that one also looked like a teddy bear. However, you know, the head was more of like a fabric material. It actually looked like a real teddy bear that one would play with, or that a kid would play with. And that one had a very forgettable smell for me. And I don't think it ever did really well in the industry. I remember smelling it at duty free many years ago, and I was this close to buying it, and I said, you know what, it's all right, I'm gonna save my money. But this one, I got my nose on it, and it has that spicy rose that is so unique, and it possesses this niche quality aspect. I know there's no such thing as niche quality, niche designer. They all get their compounds from the same factories. But at the end of the day, this one definitely has a level of creativity that I don't think the original has. And so I much prefer this over the original. I think it's a fantastic flanker. And that brings us to the number 1 spot. And I think in terms of the number 1 spot on this list, it's a fragrance that the Eau de Toilette and the original counterpart of it initially disappointed me. And so smelling this fragrance for the first time, I was so impressed. I was so taken aback. And this has received so much praise in the community and here online on YouTube. And I think it's such an improved version of the original, which seemed to just want to follow the trends. Now, since the release of this fragrance, there have actually been a couple other designer fragrances that are following the trend of this one. Let me go ahead and tell you what it is. So this one by the company Azzaro is called Azzaro Wanted by Night. So I actually have 2 bottles of this. I liked it so much that I picked up 2 bottles of it. I believe this is 100 ml, and I also have a 50 ml. And the original Azzaro Wanted just had too much of that tonka bean vibe in it that reminded me of like Invictus, right? And Versace Eros. And it seemed like it was just following the trends. However, with this one, they made it darker and spicier and a little more resinous. And I was like, yes, this is the direction that it needs to go in. And ever since then, I've smelled 1 Million Parfums, which actually smells similar to this, also came out after it. I smelled Viktor & Rolf's Spice Bomb Night Vision Eau de Parfum, also smells very similar to this. So I think other companies are catching on, and they're seeing that this is such a great fragrance, and they want to release their own version of, you know, this great fragrance, or they want to darken up perhaps some of their existing fragrances while bringing it more so in the territory of this fragrance. But Azzaro Wanted by Night is an incredible release. I'm a huge fan of it. And in my personal opinion, all 10 of these fragrances in some way, shape, or form are just as good, if not better, than the original. So that leads me to the question that I want to ask you guys. What is a fragrance, in your opinion, that is significantly better than the original? If you have an answer for me, leave a comment down below. I always love the interaction, and I love reading your comments. And also, if you are new to this channel, if you're not subscribed to this channel, like 60% of you are not, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. It would mean the whole world to me. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. Thanks again for watching. I love you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.